On behalf of Inclusion Scotland, can we just thank you all for coming here today to our Impact, Reflect and Celebrate and Look Ahead event here at the fantastic Dynamic Earth. This event today is celebrating the launch of Inclusion Scotland's Impact Report, highlighting key achievements in advancing disability rights and inclusion. It's an opportunity to reflect on progress, share lived experiences and expertise, and to explore the next steps in creating a more accessible and equitable Scotland. Alongside the Impact Report, Inclusion Scotland will be introducing the Campaign and Influencing Toolkit, and we'll discuss the Access to Elected Office Fund, which has helped disabled candidates stand for election in Scotland. Through panel discussions and breakout sessions, attendees will also have the chance to engage with key themes and help shape future priorities of our organisation. I just first want to start with some access notes. So we have remote BSL interpretations, which you can view on the screen too. We have live captioning available, which you can view either on the screen, or you can access a QR code if you'd prefer to have it on your phone or digital device. And you can set the display to your preferences. If you need any support with this, please contact either myself or one of the Inclusion Scotland team. We do have an induction loop available as well. There are 2 standard accessible toilet facilities within this venue. The closest accessible toilet is up 1 level, which you can access through an elevator. We do need to note that the elevator will only fit 1 wheelchair user at a time. And we have scheduled our breaks to accommodate this, but this is a casual event, so please feel free to come and go as you require. There's also another accessible toilet on the other side of the building if you wish to use that as well. We have a small breakout room called the Turret, which is our quiet space for attendees for today, so please feel free to use this space as you need. During our breakout discussion session later today, we will have live captions and BSL interpretation available in the quiet space at the back. So if you're in need of live captions or BSL, this is the room and group to attend. Please note that this event is being recorded and is also live streamed, so a big hello to everyone watching online. We have vegetarian, vegan and gluten-free dietary options available during lunch and refreshment breaks. As far as I'm aware, there are no fire alarms scheduled today. So upon hearing the fire alarm, all persons should leave the building by the nearest fire exit, closing doors behind them and going to the nearest assembly point. Fire wardens wearing high visibility vests will assist guests to exit the building, and you should not re-enter until informed by the duty manager or assistant duty manager that it's safe to do so. So without further ado, we would like to start today's event with a message from Calcab Stewart, the Minister for Equalities.
Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to share a few words today. I'm sorry I can't be there with you in person, but I didn't want to miss the chance to highlight the incredible work of Inclusion Scotland and you, the members, partners and stakeholders who advocate tirelessly to advance disability equality in Scotland. Your commitment to dismantling the barriers that disabled people face and ensuring inclusion and equality across Scottish society is vital. And with your dedication, you continue to create real, tangible change, from making sure that disabled people are involved in policy and decision making to the research and campaigns you collaborate on. Your efforts play a crucial role in amplifying the needs and experiences of disabled people. With the support of Inclusion Scotland, members have been able to develop the knowledge and confidence to share their expertise, campaign on the issues that matter the most to them, co-produce policy, and become decision makers themselves. As a result, disabled people are represented in the places that have impact, and their expertise shapes the outcomes. This is crucial if we are to remove the physical, systemic and attitudinal barriers in society and bring about the change disabled people in Scotland need. Everyone deserves to navigate the world with dignity and respect, without facing unnecessary obstacles. And disabled people should have the same access to the same spaces and chances as anyone else. Disability should not be a barrier to opportunity and to living a full and involved life, including in the political and policy space. I want to briefly touch on the actions the Scottish Government are taking to address the barriers faced by disabled people in society. In recognition of the work needed to improve disabled people's lives, we are investing an additional £2 million, subject to the budget bill passing, to enhance the Disability Equality Plan and deliver essential support. The plan includes actions to ensure disabled people have greater involvement in policy and decision making. Bringing the voice of lived experience to policy and legislation in Scotland is crucial, and we recognise that we cannot and should not do this without disabled people's involvement. The Scottish Government remains committed to working together with disabled people's organisations to achieve disability equality across Scotland. We will continue working closely with Inclusion Scotland and others to strengthen disability equality skills across government so that better policy better reflects the voices of disabled people. We know that without the involvement of disabled people, we'll not be able to achieve our collective vision of a fairer Scotland. Participation in the political process is a right, but unfortunately, barriers do still exist. We believe that more that disabled people are involved in decision making, the more reflective of their needs those decisions will be. That is why, subject to the budget bill passing, we are looking to reopen the access to elected office fund ahead of next year's Scottish parliamentary election. We're working collaboratively with Inclusion Scotland on this, who will share more as soon as possible. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to express my gratitude for the work that you do and for bringing lived experience and the voice of your members to policy and practice in Scotland. We find ourselves in challenging times in many respects, but I believe we can rise to the challenge. Progress comes to those who believe in a better future and a fairer society and work together to achieve it. Thank you for the chance to speak to you today, and I hope you enjoy the well-earned celebration of your achievements. My best wishes.
Fantastic message from the Minister for Equalities. The next person that we'd like to welcome to the stage first joined Inclusion Scotland over 14 years ago and was recently appointed CEO in 2024. She will be speaking about the impact report and the impact that Inclusion Scotland has had over the last year. Please welcome to the stage Chief Executive Officer of Inclusion Scotland, Heather Fiskin.
Hello, good morning everybody. I'm really pleased to welcome you all to Dynamic Earth today. It's great to see so many people turning out on a typical horrible Scottish February day. I'm Heather Fiskin, as Sam said, I'm Chief Exec of Inclusion Scotland, and for anybody who needs a description, I'm about 5'5", I've got shoulder length brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue and white stripy top, and I'm clutching the plinth in front of me, because that gives me something to do with my hands while I'm public speaking, which is nobody's favourite thing to do. So I've been asked to launch the Impact Report 2024. I've got 10 minutes. I cannot possibly go through the content of that report, and I can't choose which parts to highlight because there is so much in it. So I really want to start by thanking the staff, past and present, who contributed to all that work. We're a very, very small organisation. Maybe at some points last year we only had 5 or 6 people working on all of that work. So it was a tremendous effort to be able to have that amount of impact and to cover so much work. And I'm very, very proud to be part of that and to lead an organisation which is small but mighty. So you have copies, and there's easy read printed copies and printed copies in your bag. It's also available online if you would rather read that online. So hopefully you'll have a chance to read it. Please do come and talk to any member of staff about it, or come and have a chat with me, or email me after the event if you want to find out more. So it's an impact report, and if you look up the dictionary, which is always the worst way to start a speech, isn't it? Let's look at the definition. But it is interesting because the definition is a multi-factor influence, and that's of course what we want to do. We want to influence decision makers. We also want to influence the conditions that DPOs and disabled people find themselves living in. But the second definition is one object colliding forcibly in conflict with another. And I think that is part of what we do with our influencing. I'm not suggesting we do a lot of violence, but we do want to shout loudly. We want to conflict. We want to highlight where things aren't going right. And I think we've done that through the work that we've done last year and will continue to do. So, one of the biggest examples of that was in November last year. We worked with our colleagues in Glasgow Disability Alliance and Disability Equality Scotland to launch a campaign. And that campaign was about the fact that disabled people have been living in dire straits, have been deprioritised by decision makers. There were still barriers being erected, never mind this not being dismantled, they were still being erected. And that cannot continue. Everybody in the country has been hit by cost of living to some extent, and the pandemic, and not being able to have all the services they should have. But for disabled people, these are essential services. These are the services that enable us to get out and about and be part of society. They aren't a luxury, and it cannot continue. And also, it's making decision makers realise that disabled people have far higher costs than non-disabled people. Extra energy, extra transport costs if you have to use taxis instead of buses, or just not be able to travel at all, and the damage that you can do to your health and your livelihood and your income and your relationships and your ability to socialise through not having transport, not having a house that you can get in and out of. So, yeah, we conflict, but we do it in a way that we're taking disabled people's lived experience with us. We cannot do any of our work without our disabled people members and without disabled people organisation across Scotland who reach out to different communities and different areas of Scotland, because we should never be central about Scotland as a diverse nation, and we should never just be about older disabled people. We have to think about younger disabled people. We have to recognise that while the social model is central to everything we do, and that idea that together we all face barriers, there might not be the same barriers in practice, but we all face barriers that are erected by society, by attitudes, by the environment, and together we can dismantle them. So some of the ways in which our members and other disabled people have worked with us is through the Scottish Independent Living Coalition, which is a group of 7 or 8 of the very large disabled people organisations in Scotland who have a policy aspect to the way that they function. They're not all about services, they do policy work. The People-Led Policy Panel has been amazing. They have worked so hard, and we have worked with them to build capacity to enable influence on the National Care Service. That hasn't turned out the way we want it to. The National Care Service bill isn't going the way that we thought it would go, but there is still room for us to influence it. We have a poverty and cost of living group, and people have responded to our surveys, and we have used that evidence to speak to parliamentarians, to speak to service providers, to speak to officials and to ministers to try and influence them. We also had events all across Scotland in summer 2024, and we're really grateful for the people who came to that and shared their lived experience with us. So, throughout the report, the impact report, we have 4 themes. We've got influencing decision makers, which I've spoken about. A current example on that is we're trying to influence the work around social tariffs so that disabled people are not paying disproportionately for heating, something that is absolutely essential for so many disabled people. We're supporting our disabled people, members, to be decision makers themselves through access to elected office, and again through the PLPP. And we're developing capacity, building, raising awareness and increasing engagement. Again, as I mentioned earlier, we're always talking about the social model. That is really important. You'd be astonished, I mean, we talk about it all the time. Everybody in this room knows what we mean by the social model, but what we mean by human rights-led approaches. But you'd be astonished how many people have never heard of it before. So, at risk of sounding like a broken record, we must keep repeating that message. We do a lot of communication. It's really important. We're having a discussion at the moment about whether or not we continue on Twitter. It's a minefield. Sorry, X. Obviously I'm old. It's a minefield out there how you do communications these days. It's really difficult, but we've brought in expertise into the team who know about this kind of thing, who understand this. So we will have that debate, and we would welcome that debate with you too. But if you look at pages 16 and 17 of the impact report, you'll see just how much we've grown over the last 12 to 18 months, how many more people have heard what we've been saying. We've also worked in partnership, because no organisation is an island. We work in partnership with our members, the DPOs across Scotland. I've already mentioned Glasgow Disability Alliance and Disability Equality Scotland, but we've worked with other organisations like Zero Tolerance around violence. They focus on violence against women. So with them, we focused on violence against disabled women because there are specifics there. We're also working across the UK on the UK COVID inquiry with the 4 national DPOs from the 4 nations in the UK, and it's really important to have these relationships so that we can have that impact, because when these reports come out of the inquiry, we can use them to say, you weren't ready for that pandemic. What are you going to be doing to get ready for the next time something goes wrong, so that what happened to disabled people does not happen again? And finally, there's the growth of the movement. We're here together today. I hope you get a lot out today. I hope you meet new people and connect with people maybe you haven't had connection with for a while, because together we are stronger. And it's the only way we are going to get changes made, the only way we're going to encapsulate all disabled people's lived experience, our collective lived experience, to break down those barriers. But when we're talking about the movement, I think we do have to recognise that times are hard for voluntary organisations, third sector organisations, essential sector organisations, call them what you will. For DPOs, the funding is crushed. It's not going to get any better anytime soon. We're going to have to be quite savvy about how we get funding and how we use it. And this is at the same time that demand for the things that DPOs, particularly Centres for Independent Living and community growth organisations like Glasgow Disability Alliance, where the demand is growing because all the other services are being cut, the public sector services are being cut, and we're having to infill for that. And also because we've got a feeling that disabled people's rights are being deprioritised amongst other priorities of government and governments and local authorities. And also because disabled activists are disabled people, obviously, so they are facing all the challenges and barriers that disabled people face, but they are still fighting for themselves and for others. And it's so important that we have a community and support to do that. So, we don't stop here. Nothing stopped on the 31st of December 2024. We continue. I really hope that today, when you're in workshops or just talking to people, that you come and tell us what we should be focusing on for the next 18, 24 months. Because we are a membership organisation and we are here to carry lived experience and broker opportunities for you and disabled people and their lived experience to influence decision makers. So finally, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being members. And thank you again to the team for all the work that they did to produce this amount of work. Hopefully next year's impact report is going to be even bigger and better. And I hope you'll come and see us again at that point. So thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Heather. So next on our agenda is our panel discussion on the key themes of the impact report. And the panel members are Heather Fiskin, CEO of Inclusion Scotland, Grania McGinn, Inclusion Scotland's Policy and Research Officer, Callum Grievers, guest speaker and a disability inclusion and accessibility consultant, and Callum is also a campaigner as well. And we also have Mary Ramsey, who runs the Scottish Tremor Society and is also a disabled campaigner. So please welcome them to the stage.
Bear with us, everyone.
It's got to move a little bit.
So thank you for those introductions. I'm Pauline Nolan and I'm Head of Participation and Policy at Inclusion Scotland. I'm a white woman in my late 40s and I'm wearing a red jumper and I'm about 5'3", so quite short. And so thank you for introducing our guests. If I can just let each guest on the panel introduce themselves and what they look like for those with visual barriers. Heather, I'll start with you, our CEO.
Still the same Heather that you spoke to 5 minutes ago.
Callum.
Hey, I'm Callum. I'm a white man in an electric wheelchair with blue eyes and short hair, a beard. Yeah.
Mary.
I'm Mary Ramsey. I run the Scottish Tremor Group. I'm in navy trousers, white shirt, black cardigan, and have blonde hair.
Grania.
Hi, I'm Grania. I'm white, I'm in my late 20s and I am in a wheelchair, manual wheelchair. I'm wearing a green suit and a red jumper and I have brown hair. Nice to meet you all.
Lovely, thank you very much. So I'm just going to moderate this session. I'll start with some questions to each of the panel member and then we'll welcome questions from everybody in the room and anybody online. So our newly published impact report that Heather spoke about is categorised into 4 themes and these are influencing decision makers, supporting members to be decision makers themselves, developing capacity, raising awareness, and encouraging engagement, and lastly, supporting the growth of leadership and government within the disabled people's movement. So the first question to our panel members: Heather's earlier presentation looked at the work and impact that Inclusion Scotland devoted towards these 4 themes in 2024. Disabled people, experiences and concerns aren't homogenous. They're not all the same for everybody, and we all come from different backgrounds and have different barriers. So what does positive impact for disabled people look like for you? And we can go down the panel starting with Grania at the end, if that's okay.
Okay.
I'll mix it up as I go along.
I think positive impact for me as a disabled person kind of is encapsulated by a lot of the themes in the impact report. I think I want to see more disabled people become decision makers. I want to see a more radical and bold policy agenda for disabled people. And I want a strong disabled movement in Scotland where we can be part of a community. I think also as an individual, disabled person myself, I would like to see us reach out more and make positive impact beyond the movement. I think it's easy to kind of stay in an echo chamber where we talk to ourselves, where we feel comfortable. I'm most comfortable around other disabled people. I know that all of you understand everything I'm going to say, but I think we need to be reaching beyond that and thinking about issues that intersect with our rights, such as the environment or like racial inequality. We have a lot of in common with other movements, and it's something we could be kind of interacting with more. Yeah, that is how I would start it.
Thank you, Grania. Moving on to Mary.
Well, I'd like to see more of the governments listening and speaking to disabled people. They have said in the past, oh, we will listen to oral evidence, but that's never been forthcoming. It needs to be that disabled people are listened to. And it's basically no one's listening at the moment.
Yes, I might come back to that one if that's okay, Mary, in a little while. But I think in terms of, you know, they often go to the equality organisations for that representative voice. But I think actually often decision makers really appreciate hearing from direct lived experience of people themselves, and they appreciate the stories. And so actually as I said, I'll come back to it though. I don't want to take over the panel. I'll come to Callum now. Thanks.
So basically, I think I want to point out the disability community is the largest and most diverse minoritized group. It encompasses thousands of impairments, medical conditions, and I think it's also one that, as people get older, they find themselves part of it, whether they identify as disabled or not. And I think obviously I want to see representation in politics, the media, in all aspects of life reflecting that in the decisions that are made. It means that as disabled people grow up, they have role models. They can see themselves in positions of power or simply leading full lives. And obviously I think another aspect is that businesses need to understand the benefits for differences in terms of productivity and profitability. And that means kind of really embracing the disabled people in employment. And like UK disability market is made up of 60 million households and has a spending power of 274 billion. So businesses need to understand that supporting and accommodating us is not just about, it's not just a social cause, it's good business sense as well. So, yeah.
Yes, Heather, please.
Thank you. So much has already been said. I think one of the things I would add here is that it absolutely has to be nothing about us without us. That we are the experts and we actually know what still needs to happen. And Mary, you were talking about being listened to.
Yeah.
And, having these opportunities in these spaces to go direct to government or other decision makers, might be local authorities, health boards, etc., and say this is what's happening and this is what should be happening. But it's also about being heard. Because I don't think, you said yourself, Pauline, that we know ourselves, because we do a lot of work with the Scottish Government, that they really, across different directorates, that they really appreciate the opportunity to have, direct connections with people. And that is so important. But it takes a lot of time and effort. But to respect the effort that disabled people put into sharing their lived experience, some of it quite personal information as well, and being open enough about it. That respect has to be generated through A, change being made, and B, feedback. So we can fill in all the consultation responses you like, but we need to have that direct feedback. And in actual fact, there is something about that in the United Nations, in the general comment about disabled people's organisations, that said there should be feedback. It should be 360 degrees. So that's something I would like to see. But I think what I want to see from this impact is a change, not just more talking, not more surveys, not more consultations, but actual change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, one of the things about the People-Led Policy panel that we run is that we have a direct relationship. We set that up at the start with Scottish Government, that we have a direct relationship with the Minister who's leading on reform of adult social care support, so that we can speak directly to her, we can have written communications directly with her, and so that she hears exactly what disabled people and carers in that panel prioritise and their lived expertise. Coming to the next question, I'm going to start with Mary this time, and I'll do it that way and end with Gráinne, and then the next time start with Callum. What does being a disabled advocate mean to you?
It means to me to be able to speak out on behalf of people with all disabilities, not just with the disability that I have. As you said, we need a voice, and it's better if we come together as one voice instead of a load of little individual voices.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I'll come. There's another question about that, actually, so we'll be coming back to that. Thank you, Mary. Callum?
I imagine it's not just about speaking out to secure change from the government or other organisations involved in supporting and accommodating disabled people. It's also about seeing disability as a kind of pan-impairment alliance in a way, and we're all engaged in each other's kind of political education and supporting each other to meet their needs, even if we don't share them. And I think it's important to kind of realise our collective power as individuals. And it's also like an important aspect of it is sharing our lived experience, so that people understand that disabled people's lives are not empty, they're not other, but they're full of all the aspects of human life, whether that's success, failure, hope and disappointment, or love or heartbreak, whatever. Their full lives. I think the last bit is, it's also about finding allies in other marginalised groups and forming solidarity with them, because ultimately all forms of prejudice or discrimination, they all come from the same place of dehumanisation. I think when we realise that, we can find much more allies and have more power to change things.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And a clap from me too, because, you know, it's so important to work, because disabled people, as we said earlier, are not homogenous. So we have all those equality backgrounds as well as being disabled. So, you know, disabled woman or LGBT or LGBT disabled person or, you know, black or minority ethnic and so on. So that's really important. Thank you. Heather, you're next.
I think Callum actually covered it perfectly. The one thing I would add to that, I think for me, sometimes being a disability advocate is about being angry, which, you know, I continue to be utterly disgusted with the situation that disabled people are living in. But then again, I'm also hopeful because we are part of something bigger than just ourselves as individuals. And I'm hopeful that change will come. But anger is definitely part of it. But I think also when you're angry, you have to be careful about how you put that across. You have to use it in a sensible way to let people know that it's not acceptable. But let's work on it. Let's do something about this.
Great, thank you. Absolutely, I feel angry as well, but yes, it's all about how you frame it. Grania, you're next, please.
Yeah, without repeating what anyone else has said, I think, interestingly, when I was thinking about this question, I kind of thought to myself, like, when did I become a disabled advocate? And I kind of realised that I never became one. It was kind of something that I had to do. And I think sometimes because of that, anger is part of it. Anger that I need to do it. I think I've also had to learn a lot about what Mary's been saying and Callum about it's not just about me and my disability. Over the last year, 2 years, I've been working with people with learning disabilities quite a lot, and that's not something I knew about before working with them. And I had so much to learn. I kind of had this maybe naive assumption that because I'm a disabled person, I'm in a wheelchair, then I have an understanding of disability in all its senses, and that's not true. We have so much to learn from each other, and I think I've had to kind of reclaim that instead of feeling like being an advocate is something that I was told I had to do from a young age, because otherwise you won't get opportunities, you won't be taken seriously, you need to come in with confidence and have pride in your disability. These are all things I had to learn to do, but it's also about I've had to choose to become a disability advocate for other people with different impairments from me. And that's something I've become really passionate about, actually, not just talking about issues for people who are in wheelchairs, but talking about people with learning disabilities, people with neurodivergence, people who are blind or deaf, and things that I don't experience, but things that we should all care about equally. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really important to remember that it's just such a diverse community of identity and interest. Thank you. Moving on to the next question, and I'll start with Callum this time. What does disability mean for you, and what do we as disabled people need from policymakers to achieve this?
So I think when it comes to the question of what it looks like, I think simply just going out in the world and everything is accessible so that we're able to share space with non-disabled people. Because ultimately, we can raise awareness as much as we like, but if we don't have the opportunity to interact with people different from us in real life, I don't think much will change. And I think just going around in the world, I don't want to have to wonder where the drop curbs are or shake myself to death on cobblestones, or have to constantly check whether something's accessible because the information is provided. And that just kind of allows me to access the same social and career opportunities as everybody else. But it's also about the attitudes you face as you're growing up, so that when you're in school, you're not told that any kind of hope of achievement or success is regarded as unrealistic, so that you can be ambitious and you don't have to spend most of your 20s unraveling all this internalized ableism about what's possible, who you are, and what you can and can't do, because it really limits your potential and career development and social development.
Yeah, that internalised discrimination, because you're facing it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to unravel, yes. And see that as a challenge. Heather, you're next on this.
I think it goes back to what we had as a mantra for what was Independent Living in Scotland project several years ago, and that was choice, control, dignity and freedom. And if every disabled person had that, they would be exactly where they want to be at the time they want to be there, doing what they want to do, without hindrance. And getting that means that people have full and equal enjoyment of their rights to participation in society, whatever that be, whether it's going to a death metal concert or being an astrophysics, or sitting in the library quietly reading the book of your choice, it doesn't matter, or having relationships, doing things with your family. It's different to each and every one of us because we're all individuals, but we all face those barriers. So that's liberation, and I think that question, I really like the use of the word liberation in that question. I think that's really important.
Thanks, Heather. Moving on to Grania, same question.
I really agree with what's already been said. I really connect with Callum's experience of feeling like you lose part of your 20s in your life, kind of having to think about what your disability means for you. And I think I agree that liberation would mean a world where people don't need to do that we don't need to figure it out ourselves, that there's structures and systems in place and communities to teach us how to live the way we should be able to live just now. I think disability liberation just means a world without barriers. It's kind of hard to imagine. I think we're all so used to barriers being up all the time. Like for me, I have to think every single time I go into a room, where is there space? Is there a chair in the way? Oh, is there a lift? Where's the toilet? How would I get out of here? Do I need to ask someone for help for this or that? And I think the places where I feel the most safe are the places where there's people around me, communities who know what I need, just instinctually. There's an understanding, and I think I start to feel that in rooms with other disabled people. I feel that with family, with friends who make the effort to educate themselves. But how do you take that small experience of community and expand it to a wider system, to the world? I think sometimes liberation feels quite far away. But I think, this question is really good because it kind of assumes that disability liberation is possible. And I think in this room we all want to believe that's true. I think,
Hope, yeah.
yeah, hope that that's true, that could happen. I think from policymakers, we need proper understanding. I think comes back to what Mary said about being listened to, about filling the implementation gap we have between engagement. So much of our members, so many disabled people give their time all the time to tell people, to tell decision makers what we want to see happen. But how often do we actually see that happen? How often do we see it materialise? Well, not a lot. So I think we need to be speaking about how do we fill that implementation gap? How do we actually get decision makers to listen to us and do what they say they're going to do? And I think part of the solution to that is things like the Access to Elected Office Fund, where we get disabled people into office, because I think if we're speaking with people who understand us, it will be a lot easier to communicate that frustration than it would be with someone who doesn't understand at all. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, good shout out for the Access to Elected Office Fund as well. I'll be talking about that later on. Mary, and then I'll come to the last question.
I agree with everything Grania and Callum have said. We really need to have the decision makers, the policy makers, to get together with a group of disabled people and actually really listen. Because at the moment, they say they're listening, but they're not really. They really need to listen. I mean, I've been trying to get a petition through Parliament for 10 years. Had 4 different health ministers. They say they're listening, but they're not really.
Yeah.
And you need to get them on board with a group of disabled people of all types of disability. And as you say, the only way is to get angry with them and say, look, this is what we need. What are you going to do? Put them in a position where they cannot back out.
Thank you, Mary. A really important message there. I'm coming to the last question, and I have a big apology to make to all the audience here today and online, is that we're not going to have time to take questions. But I do think that these conversations could really continue throughout the day. So we'd appreciate, and if you do have any questions that you want to ask us, come to us, note them down, anything like that. I'm coming to the final question to the panel, and because we don't have much time left, I just want you to do a very quick one-line answer, please. I'll start with Heather with, why is it important for disabled people, organisers, individuals and organisations to collaborate and to work together in solidarity? Starting with you, Heather.
So, in the interest of brevity, I don't think there's many people in this room who don't know why it's important or would disagree. I think, there are limited resources. We will get further if we join up. We're louder. If we're joined up, we can shout louder. And I think also if we're standing together, then, and if we do it properly, then we're having space to disagree and evolve. And I think that's really important because we can't all agree with each other all the time. There will be things we need to talk about and discuss and hear what other disabled people have to say about it. And I think that's really important. If the movement is going to survive and grow, then it has to have that space to disagree and learn from each other.
Grania.
My 2 points under this question were mutual knowledge sharing. So it comes back to what I said before about we have so much to learn from one another, and I think we are experts in innovation and adaptation, and I think we all could learn something. And I think I also wrote the power of communities over individuals. I think that is very similar to what Heather said about we're better and more powerful as a collective than we are as individuals. Yeah.
Thank you. Mary.
We're definitely better speaking as one voice rather than a load of little voices.
Thank you. That's as brief as perfect. Callum, yeah.
I think there is a forging solidarity and collaboration is perhaps something we need to work harder on as SEAL people, partly because we rely on non-SEAL people to provide support, to enable us to do some of the things that we cannot do ourselves. And we may also grow up like kind of scattered, like we may be the only SEAL person in our family. We might go to school, be the only among 2 or 3 other disabled pupils. So we need to kind of make sure that we make those connections so that we can understand the power that we have collectively. And it may take a bit more effort than it would for other groups.
So more visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Brilliant answers and really interesting discussion from everybody. We are unfortunately out of time for this, but I do encourage these conversations to continue. Thank you so much to Gronya and our campaigners, Mary and Callum, who you'll be hearing from later, the 3 of them together, and to Heather for taking part in this.
Pardon? No, it's a break time. Thank you to our panelists. It is now time for our break. Before everyone wanders off, can I just direct everyone to this QR code? We have some fantastic researchers from the University of Glasgow here, Paul, Joe and Anna. And if you could take the time to fill out the survey, it will help shape the future of our work as an organisation. So if everyone could be back here for 11:50-ish, that would be fantastic. And if anyone has any questions, please find either myself or one of the team. Thank you.